chosen one. Watch them as silence does the work their words couldn't. The same crowd that once cheered the smear now turns away from the ringleader who organized the assaults against you. No one is lining up to pile on anymore. The law has intervened, and those who thought they could gang up on you are discovering why heaven and the courts keep receipts. The orchestrator sits alone while everyone else disperses like roaches when the light flips on. What looks like quiet isn't resignation, it's legally enforced restraint. People literally ordered to stop mentioning your name. This isn't one person getting calmer. It's an entire network being served with consequences they never expected. You need to understand what's happening behind that forced quiet. The mouths that once wouldn't stop running are now muzzle-locked by lawyers and subpoenas. Meetings, group chats and rallying calls that were intended to bury you have become the exact paper trail that incriminates them. Every coordinated effort left fingerprints. Every conversation that aimed to smear your name became documentation against them. They built the prosecution's case without knowing they were building their own indictment. And the irony is delicious. While they choke on resentment and watch their influence dry up, your cup overflows. That peace, contentment, and steady blessing you're living in is an unbearable sight to them, and they can't say a damn word about it. They have to swallow the verdict, accept whatever ruling has been delivered, and watch you thrive in silence. Their suffering now is the slow, humiliating realization that their campaign failed, and that the world is finally seeing what you always knew. Their accusations were manufactured and hollow. This is about defamation in the literal legal sense, not spiritual warfare dressed up as concern, not prayer requests masquerading as gossip. What was framed as raising awareness or warning turned out to be a coordinated attack on your character, your reputation, and your livelihood. When they targeted your professional life, they crossed a line from petty vendetta into criminal territory. Those whispers meant to ruin your business instead assembled evidence that a judge, investigator, or officer is taking seriously. Every contact they try to turn into an enemy becomes a witness to their scheme. You didn't have to fight back. That's the most powerful truth here. While they exhausted themselves crafting lies and collecting witnesses to their own fiction, you simply remained yourself, your authenticity, your refusal to fuel the drama, and your steady presence did the dismantling for you. Their obsession became obvious by contrast, and the more frantic they grew, the clearer it became that they were defending projections, not facts. At the center of all this sits someone who misread the situation, a relationship gone sour that turned into a communal vendetta. Maybe they'd succeeded before by weaponizing reputation or community pressure, but they miscalculated with you. The sun is exposing everything. What was once hidden gets illuminated, and legal barriers now block their ability to slander your name or sabotage your business. The smear campaign is collapsing under the weight of its own evidence, and every move they made to control the narrative only tightened the noose around their credibility. In the end, the truth isn't just surviving, it's doing what you always suspected it would, vindicating you and revealing who really built the house of cards. Every client they tried to steal from you now reads like a ledger of their guilt. Every professional relationship they attempted to poison has become testimony against them. Someone set out to bully you, to knock you off the pedestal you rightfully earned. Your natural authority and steady abundance triggered something primitive in them, but the wheel of fortune has turned. What they hoped would be a lucky break to undo you has become the nightmare they can't wake from. The collapse is rapid and undeniable. One day they moved with swagger and communal backing, the next they're silenced and leafed through legal documents. The universe doesn't always crawl. When divine justice decides to move, it moves in the blink of an eye. Right now the legal action unfolding is astonishing in its speed and reach, and it's devastating not only to that single instigator, but to the entire network that rallied behind them. Every person who joined the smear will feel the consequences in their own way. What makes this even sweeter is how public it is. Everything they plotted in the shadows is being hauled into courtroom light. Whispers become documented statements, rumors become evidence of malice, and lies repeated under oath risk turning into perjury. The shadow they hid behind is now the spotlight exposing them. Consider how terrifying it is for a mob that once felt invincible to discover they are treated as individuals under the law. When they stood together, their collective force made you seem small by comparison. But legal systems don't prosecute crowds, they hold people accountable one by one. The group's courage has evaporated into individual panic. There's also a deeper pattern here. This person's rage wasn't random. They carry an old rigid way of thinking, stubborn, traditional, unwilling to learn. And meeting you was a karmic mirror they refused to look into. Instead of growing, they doubled down. Instead of stopping after the first failed attempt, they pressed harder, left more traces, and made larger mistakes. Their stubbornness didn't protect them, it became the rope they used to hang themselves. If only they had quit after the first misstep, maybe they would have escaped consequence, but they couldn't help themselves. If this message stirs something in you, share it. Hype this video so more chosen ones can wake up to what's possible. Know too that someone from your past with outdated ideas keeps replaying their failures, stuck in competition with you, not over surface things but over something far deeper, your purity, your innocence, and your undeniable connection to the divine. Whether you name that force God, universe, Allah, or source, they have been vocally determined to deny your link to it. Whatever victory unfolds from this moment, you're being advised to keep your celebration measured, not because you don't deserve to rejoice or haven't earned full justice, but because restraint now protects the greater work still unfolding on your behalf. Chosen one, this isn't about denying you the validation of being proven right. It's about humility. Whatever victory arrives will collapse into someone else's total downfall. And even though they engineered their own ruin, pride has no place in your response. Your quiet confidence has outperformed any loud defense they could have manufactured. While they screamed and rallied for validation, you stood alone with truth. While they needed the chorus of approval, you only ever needed your own integrity. That contrast is obvious to everyone watching. Your silence declares character. Their noise exposes its absence. Notice how obsessed they were with appearances. Every public face was staged, every social post curated, every interaction performed. They built an identity out of perception. So when that reputation fractures, their whole sense of self collapses with it. You, however, built yourself on who you actually are. That is why you remain standing as they disintegrate. What they mistook for power was fragile theater. The collapse you're witnessing is the unraveling of a carefully crafted illusion. What makes this uglier is the way they weaponized the sacred. This wasn't merely gossip dressed as concern, it was spiritual bullying cloaked in religion. They turned prayer circles into strategy sessions, worship spaces into war rooms, and holy gatherings into gossip mills. Perverting the sacred for personal vendettas carries its own distinct consequences. And now the same community that once fed their campaign is telling them to be quiet. Imagine the shock. The voices that amplified their lies are the very voices ordering them to hush. The applause has turned to rejection, the nods to disapproval, the hands that lifted them now pushed them away. Watch the pattern of abandonment. The inner circle ran first. Those who knew the most and had the most to lose bailed early. The next ring followed, then the peripheral players, each distancing themselves to save their own skin. It reads like the breakdown of a criminal network, layer by layer, collapsing as individuals face their own liability. They would rather play the victim than admit they were the perpetrators, trying even now to spin persecution narratives. But the evidence is too heavy, the record too clear. Their attempts at image repair only bury them deeper. Meanwhile, you remain a quiet center of grace, asked to celebrate modestly, not because you are undeserving, but because restraint now preserves the work and the witness still unfolding around you. People are finally waking up to how easily they were played by the person at the center of this mess. They're noticing the manipulation, how their energy and influence were quietly siphoned away, and how much of what that person preached was a performance, not purity, not faith. The accusations hurled at you now read like confessions. Every moral failing they blamed on you was actually theirs. Every spiritual shortcoming they assigned to you mirrored their own emptiness. You became the living screen for their shadow, and the audience can see the play for what it is. It's mirror-on-the-wall energy, pure jealousy, resentment, and a competitiveness that's hollow underneath. People are seeing this family member for who they truly are: narcissistic, opportunistic, thin-skinned and driven by image rather than integrity. What's almost cathartic to witness is their supply collapsing. The admiration they once thirsted for has curdled into disgust. The control they exercised has evaporated. The community that fed their ego is starving them now. Distance, ghosting, and public disavowal are unfolding in layers. The inner circle fled first, then the second ring, and now even peripheral sympathizers are cutting ties. This two-faced relative or acquaintance who tried to set you up is exposed. Their setup was elaborate. Every interaction engineered to place you where they could strike emotionally, financially, or legally, but you didn't play the part they scripted. Your refusal to react on command blew their plan apart. Strip away the pious language and community theater, and the motive is clear: greed. They wanted what you had or what you were about to receive, and they needed you ruined first, so they could appear as saviors while they took what they wanted. Their image obsession wasn't vanity alone, it was transactional. Being perceived a certain way opened doors to material gain, family privileges, and inner circle benefits. Now their double life is unmasked. They're outed as a cheat and a backstabber. Even if you've already blocked and moved on, they're panicking over a shredded reputation and the sudden loss of backup, the ties they thought would protect them. Ministers, community leaders, even law enforcement contacts are severing fast. Authority figures are publicly clarifying they were misled. The lenders of borrowed power are taking their names back. The police may be viewing them as a person of interest. The ripple effects are sending shock waves through the community. That is why the noise has turned to complete silence. The gossip that once fueled them has been replaced by a hush that speaks louder than any rumor ever did. We should pray for them, then watch the story flip. Suddenly the conversation shifts. Oh my God, did you hear what happened to the person who was attacking them? The spotlight is turned. Those who once cloaked their attacks in religious language are backpedaling, pretending they never really participated, feigning shock that anyone would treat a neighbor so cruel. They'll rewrite history to look better, claim they were uncomfortable and tried to speak up, deny they believed the accusations. But you remember who said what, who stood where, and who cheered while the lines were drawn. Their revisionist tales don't erase your memory of their eager involvement. Beneath the piety, there was always a financial angle, some money they hoped to unfreeze or control, some advantage they couldn't legitimately seize unless your reputation was ruined. They spun mental health claims, moral panic, and community outrage to gain access, to position themselves as benevolent caretakers while hiding a transactional motive. The lie becomes self-belief when repeated enough. They performed concern until they forgot it was performance. Played victims so long, they mistook the role for truth. But now intense light is being cast on their deeds. Digital footprints, messages they assume deleted, covert recordings, paper trails, and financial trails are surfacing. Modern evidence leaves traces, and those traces are leading investigators straight to them. What they posed as martyrdom is now exposed as greed. There's sorrow and discord in their circles. Family and friends are fracturing, and legal notices or investigative packages are on the way. Don't be surprised if you're contacted by police or officials as investigators piece the case together. The irony that the one they labeled unstable may end up the stable party is painfully obvious to everyone. The person they accused of losing touch with the divine is often the one embodying grace. Now the one they tried to isolate might be the only one capable of mercy. Mercy isn't owed, and forgiveness isn't required. Your boundaries are sacred, and you alone decide who enters your life. You may be contacted to give witness testimony or provide a statement. They'll want to interview you to piece together what this person was doing. Understand this clearly: you are not the one under suspicion. You are a crucial piece of the puzzle investigators are assembling. Your testimony matters precisely because you kept your integrity while others manufactured chaos. You never stooped to their level or invented counter-narratives. You simply stayed truthful. Right now, that truth is the most powerful instrument in the arsenal of justice. Every honest word you offer cuts through the tangled web they spun and makes their deception stand out in stark relief. Expect a parade of false friends once this begins to close. People who whispered while smiling may suddenly pat your back and proclaim, "We always believed in you." Those are often the same voices that gossip behind your back, the ones who cloaked spiritual attacks in prayer while sending venom disguised as virtue. There is a palpable difference between genuine allies and fair-weather sympathizers. Real supporters stood with you when it cost them something, defended you when it was unpopular, and believed you when the evidence seemed stacked against you. Those are the people worthy of entry into your elevated space. Everyone else is merely trying to hitch their redemption to your victory. What's unfolding for you is far larger than a single courtroom outcome. The legal vindication will be real and public, something set in stone. But it's only one facet of your triumph. Your restoration is multidimensional. Legal vindication is joined by financial restoration, social clearing, and a deeper spiritual elevation. You've been promoted in realms they never knew existed. You've been granted authority and favor in dimensions beyond their perception. The visible success they witness is merely the tip of an iceberg that extends into unseen, eternal territory. Remember that every lie they uttered created a record. Every false accusation they made only strengthened the case against them. Your patience under persecution proved the very divinity they claimed you lacked. You didn't have to fight, because the universe was taking meticulous notes. Every tear, every whispered prayer, every lonely hour of despair was witnessed. Now accounts are being settled. The cost of your pain is being extracted from the life force of those who caused it. The interest on your suffering is being collected from their future. The architect of this campaign sits in ruin, abandoned by followers who are busy distancing themselves, muzzled by legal counsel, and trapped by the consequences they thought they could dodge. If you want to know what true isolation looks like, watch them now, not merely alone, but surrounded by people who no longer trust them, possessing a contact list full of names, yet having no one who will answer the call. Their community knows their name but refuses to speak it. The cage they built to hold you has become their permanent residence, and in that silence, their undoing is made complete. This is the isolation they are living through now, and make no mistake, it is not the quiet solitude of the peace you've cultivated. It is the hollow exile of judgment they constructed against themselves. Legally, may be constrained, but the spiritual consequences slice deeper and travel farther than any courtroom's reach. They weaponized sacred things for selfish ends. They turned faith into a tool for personal gain, prayer circles into strategy meetings for your ruin, and community spaces into staging grounds for character assassination. Those actions register on a different ledger than human law. Spiritual law answers to principles courts don't measure. There is no plea bargain with karma, no early release from divine consequence, no statute of limitations on the debts one incurs by abusing what is holy. What they wrote against their own souls will be collected across lifetimes if it must be, a debt with interest compounded into infinity. Because when the sacred is perverted, the universe rebalances with an exacting hand. You were never merely a victim of spite. You were baked in a sovereign design. Your light was so bright it drew the moths, and your authenticity was so pure it exposed every counterfeit standing near you. You were the test that forced hidden things into the open. This is the archetypal role of chosen ones throughout history. Placed in situations where darkness assumes it can win, you become the stage on which corrupt schemes unravel and true character is revealed. The presence of your integrity compelled people to choose, and many chose poorly. That choice is now visible for everyone to read. People who once hid behind pious language and moral posturing are revealed as opportunists. Those who fashioned themselves as shepherds were secretly preying on the flock. The exposure is painful for them and clarifying for the community, a painful but necessary purge that allows the genuine to be separated from the toxic. And yet this isn't only about reckoning, it is about restoration and refinement. When I say sevenfold, understand this is not mere multiplication of what was lost. It is a process of purification and upgrade. What returns to you comes cleaner, stronger, and more aligned with your true destiny. Money restored with integrity rather than tainted gain. Opportunities that are more fitting and sustainable. Relationships that are healed and fortified rather than superficial alliances patched together for convenience. The universe doesn't simply replace, it refines. Your losses were the raw material in a divine refinery. The result isn't a copy, but an elevation. Your suffering became catalytic. It interrupted patterns of abuse, warned vulnerable people, and protected future generations from inheriting the same toxic templates. The ripple effects of your endurance will protect children who would have been targeted, spare the vulnerable from manipulation, and free entire lines of people from repeating dysfunction. You were the lightning rod that grounded dangerous energy so broader healing could begin. A service you gave without consent and without thanks, and yet it alters history. Still, this restoration is not an invitation to be everyone's repair shop. You do not owe forgiveness to those who have not genuinely repented. You owe yourself sacred boundaries. You have already paid the tuition for their education. You do not need to volunteer for the teaching job. Some separations are permanent for a reason. Some bridges once burned shouldn't be rebuilt, because rebuilding them would invite the same conflagration. Your elevation does not obligate you to carry those who tried to bury you. It places you where you belong, and expects you to steward that position with discernment. The authority they pretended to hold is being reassigned to you in authentic form. That authority functions in dimensions they cannot perceive. When you speak, different frequencies respond. When you move, unseen energies align. When you decide, doors open that were never visible to them. You've been given keys to thresholds they never even suspected existed. Keys that unlock roles, responsibilities, and realms of influence beyond the comprehension of your detractors. This is the real reason for their silence. They are not merely quiet because they are ashamed. They are quiet because they are listening now from the other side of a threshold they cannot cross. They sense at some level that forces are shifting in ways they neither anticipated nor understand. Their noise once attempted to drown out truth. Now truth speaks in a language of consequence, and that language is not one they command. Watch how your life reconstitutes the public victories and the private elevations, the legal vindication paired with spiritual promotion, the material restoration tempered by the quality of what returns. This is both a vindication and a commissioning. You are not simply being cleared, you are being deputized to a higher stewardship. Let the silence of your enemies be the background on which your new life emerges. Keep your heart guarded yet open. Celebrate with humility and step into the expanded purpose their persecution was meant to prevent. not just because of legal consequences, but because they are watching their most dreaded nightmare unfold right before their eyes. Their greatest fear was never that you might stumble. It was that you would thrive, rise and become everything they insisted you could never be, and now it's happening. You are stepping into the fullness of who you always were, embodying the strength, grace, and purpose they swore you didn't deserve. You are walking boldly into the very blessings they told everyone were impossible for you. You are proving in real time that their judgments were empty, because only divine judgment stands, and when heaven speaks, no earthly lie can stand against it. Every success you touch now hammers another nail into the coffin of their credibility. Every blessing you receive is like a billboard displaying their poor discernment. Every door opening for you is a door closing to them, locking them out of opportunities they once thought they controlled. And the haunting part for them is this: they must live every day knowing they tried to bury you, and all they accomplished was planting the seed of your elevation. That knowledge is a ghost that will follow them everywhere, whispering in the silence of their nights and in the pauses of their conversations. The wealth they craved but could never secure is manifesting for you openly. The respect they demanded through intimidation is being handed to you naturally because you earned it through integrity. The spiritual authority they pretended to carry has been given to you authentically, stamped and sealed by realms they cannot access. Every single thing they tried to sabotage is being restored and displayed publicly, undeniably, and with divine validation. And here is the unshakable truth about divine delivery. What is decreed for you cannot be stolen, revoked, or transferred. What has been sealed with your name in heaven's archives cannot be broken by human hands. They can sit and watch, they can long for it, they can grind their teeth in envy, but they cannot touch it. You have been placed beyond their reach, permanently safeguarded by forces that move outside their comprehension. Chosen one, the silence they sit in now is not ordinary silence, it is the silence of judgment. Their once loud voices, their constant gossip, their poisonous whispers, all muted, all cut off. That silence is your victory song, echoing across every corner of the community that once tried to erase you. The very people who turned their backs on you must now live with the reality that the future is written without them. Their silence is not empty space, it is filled with recognition, filled with the weight of knowing they violated something sacred when they attacked you. They tried to fight someone who had unseen armies guarding them. They united against someone they thought was defenseless, but you were never alone. Heaven itself backed you. Now the verdict is final, the judgment is sealed, and you stand exactly where you were always destined to stand, elevated above their reach, untouchable by their schemes, and rising to heights they can only watch from below. Their forced silence is your standing ovation. Their consequences are your proof. Their unraveling unity is the evidence that alliances built on lies always collapse, while a life rooted in truth remains unshaken. No one will come to help them now, not because they wouldn't like to, but because they legally and spiritually cannot. The verdict is in, the sentence has been handed down, and you, chosen one, are free to become everything they tried to prevent you from becoming. While they sit in the silence they once tried to impose on you, the universe is teaching them why the chosen are called chosen. And hear this clearly, the silence surrounding you is not a void. It is pregnant with possibility. Every closed mouth that once slandered you is a door closing to your past. Every legal restriction binding them is a spiritual release granted to you. Every back turned against them as a face turned toward your light. You never had to beg for belief, never had to prove your worth, never had to convince anyone of your authenticity. The truth did all the talking, while you did all the rising. This is not your season of revenge, it is your season of revelation. This is not about retaliation, it is about restoration. This is not about pride, so it is about purpose. The entire community that once aligned to bury you has unknowingly built the soil for your garden. Their coordinated efforts to destroy you became the fertilizer for your growth. Their attempts to orchestrate your downfall became the blueprint for your coronation. The pit they dug for you became the platform on which your crown was placed. And never forget this, you were chosen long before they rejected you. You remain chosen long after their rejection, and you will continue to be chosen long after their names or footnotes in a cautionary tale told to warn others not to wage war against divine destiny. The silence they endure now is not just their punishment. It is your permission to speak your truth without opposition, to live your calling without obstruction, and to rise into your destiny without interference. The stage they built to expose you has become the stage for your elevation. The spotlight they aimed to shame you now illuminates your strength. The audience they gathered to laugh at your fall is the same audience now forced to witness your triumph. And the silence, oh that silence, and is not emptiness. It is the sound of heaven's applause, drowning out every accusation hell ever hurled against you. No one will ever help them bully you again. The army they gathered has disbanded, the generals have surrendered, the war they declared has ended, and you won without firing a single shot. Your victory was scripted before their attack was drafted. Your triumph was guaranteed before their first lie was whispered. Your elevation was scheduled before their first meeting was ever held. This is what it means to be chosen. This is what it means to be protected. This is what it means to be divinely appointed. They thought they were dealing with just another person they could pressure, silence, or destroy. What they didn't know is that you are heaven's investment, divine property, a chosen vessel marked by eternity. Now they know. Now everyone knows now. And that forced acknowledgement of who you truly are is the sweetest victory of all. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me rest in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm, to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer this prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who needs to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider using the link in the description. Your contribution helps us continue creating content that inspires and heals.